Hello everyone, Orc of Krypton here and welcome to my first ever YouTube video. In case you know me from other social media platforms, thank you for deciding to support my content here as well, it really means a lot. And in case you're new, hi again, welcome to my channel. Now, Superman has always been my favorite superhero, and the reason why I started my Instagram page, and my YouTube channel by proxy, was to support the release of the Snyder cut of Justice League. So I thought it would be a great idea to start off my YouTube journey by talking about something that combines them both. So without further ado, let's begin. When people ask what is the core of something, by definition they're asking what is the most important part of it, the one that will make the most significant change if it was absent. And in recent years there have been some very intense discussion about what is the core of Superman's character. Some say it is a bit attitude, others think it is openly expressed beliefs about justice and hope, others again say it is his ability to comfort and inspire others in times of crisis. But if you were to ask me, the most important element of Clark Kent's character is the fact that he cares. He cares about his family, his girlfriend, his friends, the people around him, the way he uses his powers, how he is perceived while doing so, his morals and beliefs, the consequence of his actions or inactions. Being the sweetheart that he is, Clark Kent cares about a lot of things, and when you care a lot about something, you don't want to break it or lose it. You want to hold it, protect it, you handle it with, well, care. You keep your strength in check, and considering Clark's immense strength, you could say he'd have to be as gentle as a butterfly, which is exactly what brings us to this scene in Zack Snyder's Justice League. Right after being resurrected from the dead, at first Clark is very lost and confused, to the point of attacking at the very first sign of hostility, not unlike an animal would. But once he reunites with Lois Lane, the love of his life, he hugs her tightly and embraces her as the two fly away together. They then arrive at the Kent farm, the place that Clark recognizes as his home, and is sweetly guided by Lois into the house. Throughout this bit, to me Clark felt a lot like a child, looking around in wonder, being guided by hand and being dressed, not fully understanding some things. And this is very fitting, because Clark is slowly collecting the memories of his childhood. How much his mom loved to live there, how much he loved to live there. As he says that, the camera slowly pans out to a swing, the same swing he used to sit on when he was a kid, and the butterfly was seen flying on. A while passes and Lois looks out at the cornfield, where Clark is seen firstly grasping some of the plants before letting a butterfly play on his fingers as he looks at it with gentle curiosity. Now, butterflies are commonly associated with many ideas: delicateness, nature, metamorphosis, resurrection. There's also the common idea of the butterfly effect, where a small action in one place, like a butterfly flapping its wings, can result in a series of much bigger chain events elsewhere, often to catastrophic proportions. By the prologue of Man of Steel, the House of L is immediately associated with nature. Jor-El and his wife Lara conceived the very first natural birth in centuries. Then he rides a flying animal while being chased by airships, and both him and his wife are trying to bring back the element of free will that was absent from the natural sterile society they live in, after they'd already exhausted the natural resources of their planet. On the Earth side of things, Clark is then adopted by the Kents, a couple of farmers who obviously work very close to nature. And throughout his life, Clark himself is very close to the elements of nature. Saving his classmates from drowning in a lake, he works at sea, saves Hollywood workers from fire while being covered by it, walks in snowy landscapes while trying to uncover his past and during moments of introspection, flies through the air as he unravels his true nature, gains his power from the light of a star, floats by controlling his own natural gravity, rocks and dirt float in his presence, all of this to emphasize how in tune Clark is with Earth, his adopted planet, his home. One could make the pun that Clark is a little down-to-earth guy, and it wouldn't be wrong to say. The Superman is consistently portrayed as a very simple-minded and humble man that just wants to help, but is often overwhelmed by the complexities of the world he's in, and his connection to the simple beauties of Earth help to emphasize this trait of his. So I think it's very fitting that one of Clark's most blissful moments is him playing with a butterfly in the middle of a cornfield. as he reunites with Lois, his soon-to-be wife, meaning she's soon going to be part of Clark's family too. Speaking of family, Clark's mother Martha shows up shortly after, and as she gets out of the car, she's understandably in disbelief at what she's seeing. Back to the idea of butterflies as a symbol for resurrection, Clark may have returned physically at first, but it's not until this scene here when he's fully himself again, when he is back also on a spiritual and emotional level. In Native American culture, the yellow butterfly is also a sign of hope and guidance, precisely the elements needed for Clark to fully return, the guidance of his loved ones, and the hope to give to him, which in turn he gives to himself and then he gives to others. Much like a butterfly, Clark goes through a rebirth of sorts. In the original script for the Justice League saga, after coming back to life, Superman fully abandons his Clark Kent identity, since he technically died after the Doomsday fight. Thankfully though, this was one of the many scrapped ideas that didn't last in the current direction of the series, as the Clark Kent part of his character is shown to be an essential centerpiece in order to move forward. During his fight with the Justice League, he is basically a blank slate, a machine of power and muscles that goes by the name of Kal-El, with all the Kryptonian powers at full display, but none of the human touch to accompany them. But then he goes to his childhood home, where he is embraced and guided by his family, back to being Clark again, someone who's ready to hope again. And he doesn't return being Superman by, quote, killing Clark Kent, but by spreading his metaphorical wings and becoming something much bigger than himself, something much bigger than either Clark or Kal. On two separate occasions, Clark enters the Fortress of Solitude as himself and exits out of it as Superman, with a triumphant flight sequence afterwards. Him wearing the Superman suit is him embracing a symbol, the stem of his family, the decision to physically embody an ideal he technically already believed in.
That's what this symbol means. The symbol of the House of El means hope. Embodied within that hope is the fundamental belief in the potential of every person to be a force for good.
Only that now is taken one step further. And while technically we aren't given a specific reason why he picks the black suit in Zack Snyder's Justice League, I still like the idea that his symbol matters regardless of the colors that surround it, you know? It gives it a very international feel, let's say. The fact that he has the Superman suit doesn't necessarily mean he's the Superman yet. In fact, for most of his films, he's more or less Clark in a House of El suit. But his suit does signal an evolution of his character into something much greater, an ideal, a symbol, one that affects the world and his people around him, both physically and figuratively. When your senses can perceive everything and your heart cares about everything, you'll have to keep yourself in constant check just to not go crazy. Or, to make matters easier, you can focus it all on small things, like one person, or make it all an island and you can swim towards it. Clark channels his love for humanity to his closest connection to it, his family and the love of his life. This once again puts emphasis on the importance of the little things, and how vital they are for Clark Kent's character. His rampage at Heroes Park, which shows his immense unleashed power, also works as a nice contrast to the graceful and tender scenes that follow through. With all of his strength, Clark could crush the butterfly with even less effort than it takes for a normal human. Yet he takes the utmost care of this delicate being as he totally watches it jump around his fingers, almost admiring its wonder and beauty amidst all the chaos of the world. That is who Clark Kent is, someone that wants to protect the beauties in life, the small things that makes it worth living. Because a Superman that doesn't care about how his powers affect others becomes lazy and reckless. A Superman that doesn't care about the suffering of others becomes inhuman and detached. A Superman that doesn't care about his usual ideals becomes evil and twisted. That is the number one ingredient that makes him special. According to the butterfly effect, something as minuscule as the wing flap of a butterfly can cause a mass series of events elsewhere, and in these films, Clark's very existence causes a massive change in status quo. It starts off with something as small as a school class being saved from drowning, but then it delves into the existential ramifications of what his nature as an alien could bring to the world, how he could shake up the world on a political, religious, and even scientific level, as he does in BVS. It has an impact on the figurative side of things, but there is also a physical aspect of his impact. While searching for his origins, Clark activates the ship that brings Earth, which then leads to an alien attack, which then traumatizes Bruce Wayne into wanting to kill Superman. Then Clark kills Zod, which leads to Lex being able to use his corpse to create Doomsday, which brings the Trinity together. Then Superman sacrifices himself to kill it, which then inspires Batman and Wonder Woman to form the League. And it alerts Apocalypse of his death, which then sends Steppenwolf, and is defeated by the League that Batman assembled plus Superman, which was resurrected by them. All that because you had to push the bloody thing, Clark. But to put it simply, much like the wings of a butterfly in the butterfly effect, Clark is portrayed as a major catalyst for change, impacting the world in many significant ways just by existing. In Man of Steel, his decision to search for his past kickstarted the plot of the movie. In BVS, the idea of Superman affects Lois, Bruce, Lex, and even Clark himself, and the world at large. Then in Zack Snyder's Justice League, Superman's death affects both heroes and villains alike, since his screams alert Steppenwolf of his death, and his sacrifice inspires Bruce to form the League in order to fight the imminent threat. A decision that ends up saving the planet, much like Clark's own decision in previous movies. There's this overall message that the smallest of decisions can lead to the biggest changes, for both the better or the worst. Clark Kent is portrayed as someone that does good deeds no matter how small or huge, under the notion that they're all equally worth doing, and the fate that they end up making things better by the end. And while he suffers the consequence of this decision multiple times, he still moves forward. At the end of the day, the world is a better place because of him, and I find that very inspiring. Superman as a character has always been a very fascinating answer to the debate of nature versus nurture, whether we are born a certain way or we are shaped as such by the world. He gains his powers from his genes, meaning internal factors, but it is his upbringing that plays the major part in who he is, external factors. Most superheroes draw their powers from external factors, such as scientific accidents, magic objects, and/or training, giving meaning to internal factors they either always had or developed. But with Superman, it's not his powers that give him meaning, he gives meaning to them. In the DC animated universe, my personal introduction to the character, Superman's biggest nightmare is that one day he will lose control of his strength and accidentally kill his loved ones, and he later says that he feels as if he's constantly living in a world made of cardboard. For this very reason, he goes all out only on those he knows he can take it, much like this version does. The image of a small flying animal landing on Superman's hand is both mirrored and contrasted with comic book iconography as well. When Superman becomes the new god of strength in the Darkseid War storyline, he grows so detached from humanity from how powerful he has become, and the cover contrasts this idea with the simple gesture of a bird landing on his fingers, giving the idea that he has to massively hold back just to not pulverize it entirely. Doomsday, who's Clark's complete antithesis when it comes to power being handled with care, first emerges from the ground. The first thing he does is letting a bird land on his hand only to crush it before laughing sadistically, reveling in his evil. In Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns, a very strong influence on Zack Snyder's Batman, we get a scene of Clark proudly standing on a rock with his shirt open and a batfly passing beneath him, plus an eagle lands on his arm in the animated movie. And it all creates such a ridiculously patriotic image that is meant to highlight his pretentiousness in his story, rather than his humility. And for this Clark specifically, this whole scene is a turning point. No longer is he a troubled man seeking answers, he's settled into his identity as an inhabitant of Earth, completely at peace with himself. He is free, like the butterfly is no longer bound to swing chains, but is flying free to nature. At the end of the day, it's not being called by his Kryptonian name that brings him back. It's the emotional connections he's made on Earth, with his girlfriend, his childhood home, his family. To top it all off, what's the name of that beautiful, absolutely beautiful slow rendition of the DCEU Superman's theme that plays while Clark is lovingly embracing his loved ones at the Kent farm? Earthling. I'm Mark of Krypton, and I hope I made your day slightly better.